but it was challenging. But I wouldn't. This is my wheelhouse. This is what I love doing.
Well, let's talk about Randle. Let's talk about Randle finds his light.
Let's talk about
I love it. Go ahead and give our listeners just an overview of the book.
Okay. So I believe that we all have a light inside. And I believe that we all have a purpose, if you want to call it that, a greater calling. That's why we're here. And I believe that it's important to nourish and to support the light that we all have, because some of us maybe have had it and maybe something has happened in our lives that have dimmed it. Some of us maybe have it blowing full steam ahead, and that's great, and they're sharing it with others. A candle, a light passed on to another candle doesn't dim your light. It only makes it grow. And then there are others that don't even realize they have the light deep inside. So the book is about that. The whole book, the imagery, the names of the characters, the city where it takes place in Paris, everything screams of light. And it's about a little candle, Randle, Randy for short, and he's a misfit. He was made in a factory in Paris, and he had an extra wick, and it was a little smaller than the others in his batch, and they pulled him off the line, the production line, and took him away from everybody, and they labeled him a little imperfect. A little label said imperfect. Like we do with children, we label children and we cast them aside as if they're not important, they're not valid, and they don't matter. And that's a tragedy. So I wanted to speak to that. So this little candle gets put in the supply closet on a back shelf all alone, and he's crying, and he's so sad. And Luken, which means it's a man's name in Basque for light, was given the job, hey, buddy, clean out the closet. So he did, and he found Randy, and he thought he was unique and special. And his wife, Jome, which means light in Japanese, was a teacher. So he said, she's going to love this. She loves candles. So the story, the adventure begins, he takes Randy home, puts him on a shelf next to a little peppermint striped candle named Candy. So it's Randy and Candy, and they develop a beautiful friendship. And the part in the story, I know you had asked me if I wanted to read an excerpt. I don't know if this is a good time to do it or not.
Perfect.
This is the conversation that Randy and Candy have. And Randy, he's just in love with Candy. She's really pretty and has a beautiful red bow, but she's more like a big sister to him. And so he's sad because, well, this is what it says. If only they could see me shine, he said with a sigh. I know they would see how my light could bring so much joy and make people happy. And Candy, let me skip to the next page here. And she says, don't be sad, Randy. You're a special candle, and soon everyone will see your light shine. I hope you're right, Candy. He said, I feel like no one wants to give me a chance. I have so much light to give. Candy said, I promise your light will shine at just the right time. And you have to read the book to find out what happened.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the idea, first of all, that you were clever enough to use words from other languages that meant light. You were clever enough to set this in Paris, called the City of Light. Wow, Lisa, so clever. What is a kindling corner? I found that as I was doing my research, and I thought, I'm going to ask her about this.
Well, what I would like to do is start a group of children, because, children, in order for all of us to feel connected, there's three things that have to be present. We need to know that we are loved. We need to know that we are capable of loving others, and we need to know that we belong. When those three things are present, we feel a connection. And, as adults, yes, but especially as children. And a kindling corner, I came up with that because, again, this feeds into light. When you, let's say it's a wood-burning stove or a fire, when you feed the fire, you put kindling in a fire. And I said, well, how can we relate that to feeding someone's light? And I said, well, there's goslings, there's ducklings, there's yearlings. How about let's start a group called Be a Kindling as a little child, and say, when you feed the light of another, you're being a kindling. And so if you notice, the first four letters of the word kindling is kind. So when you feed someone else's light, you're being kind. or when you're kind, you're feeding someone else's light. So then I thought, let's do a call to action, because story time, reading to and with your children is so important. And I thought, let's do a call to action and set a challenge, make your own kindling corner. And what is that? That is any place that you can read with your child about stories of caring and empathy and compassion. And it could be anywhere. It could be a living room. It could be on a floor. It could be on a bed, a sofa, in a car, on your lap. But it's really kind of maybe a symbolic place that's the time where your child knows you're going to give at least 10 minutes, and that's all it takes. A 10-minute time every day, time that is just mommy and mine, daddy and mine, grandma and mine, my aunt and mine, that's just for me. And there's no distractions. And that's something that they can look forward to. And you would be amazed at how just a small investment of time like that can really have a huge impact for a variety of reasons, connection being number one.
Oh, there's all kinds of research. I'm one of those people who does all kinds of research. I'm a custom curriculum writer, and so I'm constantly, looking under rocks to find new information and looking at new ways to present things and new ideas. I love this Kindling Corner idea, and the idea that it fits in so perfectly with this book, Randle Finds His Light, because he's a candle and it's a flame. And I love the idea of kindling, and even the description that you gave of story time, that could even be a kindling corner. Even though it was in a school and a classroom, she gathered you around. Yeah, she gathered you around. And so she was creating a really special atmosphere. And it impacted, if it impacted you, the chances are good that it impacted some other kids. And there's brain research that talks about how stories light up our brain. Exactly. And so this idea, the Kindling Corner, is lighting up the brain of all of the children. That. Thank you. It just came to me. Former teacher, what can I say? Now, I love this book. I know this is not your first book, and I want to direct our audience to where they can find your book. Now, actually, yours are available on your website, but there's so much more there than just books. So let's give them the website's address, and then let's talk about what all is there, because it's a treasure trove.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yes. The website is my first initial L, and then my last name, Graham, Graham, and then just the word author, author.com. So lgrahamauthor.com. And once you get there, there are a variety of things to see. There is the link to our Empower Kids for Literacy Foundation, which the goal is to form partnerships within the community so that we can get books into the hands of children in underserved communities or children regardless of their personal or social circumstances. We do a lot of work with foster children, adoptive families, the inner city communities, and there's so much to be done. So we are literally in our boots on the ground, grassroots, mustard seedling stage, where we're looking for all types of support. And so that's there on our community tab. And then we have our podcast, Tell Me, which is available in all formats. And that's all about, doing the good work that you're doing. It's the power of one. And a good friend of mine said it's the power of one, but it's also the power of one another. One idea from one person, that's where it starts. But it grows in the community. And I just absolutely love that. That's Genevieve Vitoro, the founder of the Pajama Program. I wish she was on our show. So that's there. We have a link to our Redbubble store. All the proceeds, I love the ocean, all the proceeds for anything purchased there go toward the foundation. What else do I have on there?
Don't you have your links to Facebook and Instagram?
Oh, yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes, all our social media links are on there. So I have a pretty heavy presence on Facebook, and it's just my name. We are on Twitter. We're on LinkedIn. Not so much on Instagram, not yet. But yeah, all you have to do is go to lgrahamauthor.com, and everything is there. Everything is there for you.
This has been so much fun, but obviously we are running out of time. You are doing just the work of the angels, and it's been such a pleasure to have you on Books on Air. I've got one final question for you, and I think I already know the answer to the question, but I want to hear you say it. These books are, first of all, they're illustrated beautifully. Is there something about the illustration that you want to talk about? Is there an illustrator that you work with?
Yes. Well, I've picked different illustrators for each book. The Randle Finds His Light. I am a huge supporter of the arts, and I like to give exposure to young artists. There are so many out there who are so gifted, and I wanted to give exposure to some young up-and-coming artists. So the artist for Randle Finds His Light, her name is Ashley Montel, and she went to Rowan for digital fine art, and now she has graduated, and she is going to the Maine School of Art. So happy for her. So this was her first project. This was her very first book. So we're hoping to get her a lot of exposure. And the second book that we also have, Sandy's Safe Place to Land, she is a high school art teacher, and her name is Nicole Smedile, Smedile, and she does all of her work. She has art in galleries. It's all ocean specific, and her faith is very strong. That's actually our first outwardly faith-based book, but that's a sweet little story too. So yeah, amazing artists. And I can't say enough about them and how rewarding the process was. It was tough. It was push and pull, but you got to get it right. And when it's right, you look at it and you say, wow, it was worth the wait.
Well, Randle and Randy and Candy are so cute. It really attracts your attention, and I love it that you rhyme their names. When people read either a children's book to a child, whether it's a mom or a dad or a grandparent or a babysitter, guardian, someone that reads with the child, or the child reads the book themselves, they close the book. Do you want them to just take away a really nice, sweet, uplifting story? Or is there another message that you really want them to leave with?
Oh, yeah. It's pretty simple, but don't, and this is for adults too. I've had so many adults say your books are really for me. They're not just for kids too, because we're all just kids inside, right? We're all little kids inside, wanting that innocence and love and acceptance. So don't miss the power of a moment. And I talk to kids about, when you're unkind to somebody, even for a moment on the playground, in the cafeteria, on the bus, and you think it doesn't have an impact, it does. But there are positive things that you can do in a moment that can turn things around. And these books, all of them focus on, since we're talking about light, little moments of light, little moments of kindness. And I guess I would say is no moment of kindness is ever wasted.
Oh, that's perfect. That's just perfect. This has been absolutely delightful. I love all of the work that you're doing, the foundation, the books, the message that the books have. It's just been such a pleasure to have you on Books on Air. Thank you, Lisa, for being our guest.
Oh, thank you. I'm very, very grateful.
Now, don't forget, Lisa's books are available at www.L for Lisa, Graham, GRAHAMAUTHOR.com. All lowercase, no spaces. You've been listening to the Books on Air podcast, brought to you on webtalkradio.net. You can also hear this podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and iHeartRadio. I'm Suzanne Harris, and I hope you'll join our next Books on Air podcast, because remember, you never know who's going to be here, and you never know what we're going to talk about. Thank you so much for listening.